Hello, everyone. I'm Shalika De Silva. I would like to welcome all of you to our month of October Clarity of Mind through Mindfulness session. Last month, actually, we concluded the series of Dhamma talks on 10 perfections, and today our session is going to be based on how we can develop resilience and coping skills with the help of Buddha's teaching. Now, I would like to invite our teacher, Venerable Panadure Chandarathana Thero, to commence the session. Theruvan Sarnai Bhante.
Yeah, that one, Sanna. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Bhante, I can hear you.
Fine. So basically, as Shalika pointed out, we are going to discuss a new uh, topic today. Since we discussed already some uh, perfections, what we call parami, but we didn't actually discuss them in order. But we sometimes discuss certain things earlier, and later we discuss certain other items. Anyway, we have basically covered all the 10 perfections. Now I thought of discussing this particular topic since we are going through some hard time throughout the world. So there is a very beautiful sutta comes in Anguttara Nikaya, where Buddha talks about a certain skill one needs to have when dealing with mundane as well as various other, say, daily activities. So there he mentioned how a bhikkhu has to patiently endure. So here Buddha mentioned Katancha Bhikkave Bhikkhu Khanta Hoti. Khanta. Khanti is one of the terms, Pali terms referred to what you call the patience. Bhikkave Bhikkhu Khamo Hoti Sitassa Unhassa Jigacchaya Pipasaya. Here a bhikkhu patiently endures cold and heat, hunger and thirst. Dansa Makasa Vatatapa Sirinsapa Sampassanam. So contact with flies, mosquitoes, wind, the burning sun, and serpents. Duruttanang, duragatanang, vachanapatanam. So rude and offensive ways of speech. Then uppannanang saririkanang vedananam. Dukkanang, tibbanang, kharanang, katukanang, asatanang, amanapanang, panaharanam. Bodily feelings that are painful, racking, sharp, piercing, harrowing, disagreeable, sapping one's vitality. It is this way that a bhikkhu is one who patiently endures. So, this is what actually we are going to elaborate today based on what Buddha has mentioned there. So, basically, patience is one of the key points in our practice. And again, particularly when we are going through some hardships, we definitely have to have patience. Otherwise, we may even aggravate the situation. And here, Buddha starts with patiently endures cold and heat. So, what happened is sometimes we are trying to control our environment. Say we are switching on our fan, we are switching on the air conditioner as much as possible so that we can have a comfortable environment, maybe a proper room temperature, comfortable room temperature. So, likewise, we are trying to control our surrounding, but this is not always possible. Say if you are traveling by another person's uh, vehicle, or if you are traveling by a common public transport, probably you can't have the way you want. And on the other hand, say if you are living in a particular country where the heating system is required, and suppose that you don't have electricity or the gas to switch it on, then you are in a big trouble. And on the other hand, say you are going through some another situation, say the complete environment is quite heated up and temperature is very high, and you don't have any facility to control it, then again you have nothing much to do other than the patiently endure it, or simply to be patient. So the environmental conditions are nowadays changing and getting against us because of our own kind of human activities, and whole world is actually facing a lot of climatic problems, and we definitely have to face a lot of troubles maybe even in the future. So how can we endure these things? Actually, when things happen, then it is difficult to immediately train ourselves. So what we need to do is, in a way, before things happen, before we come into difficulties, before we face with difficulties, we better train ourselves. In a way, we have to go through kind of a preventative approach rather than a kind of a curative approach. And I like to share with you some experiences I had myself recently. So I happened to travel in India for about 2.5 weeks. So there are a lot of hardships I had to go through. So once I went there, the food is quite difficult, and I had to go through some food indigestion situation, and later it turned into a diarrhea. Now, fortunately, we had some medicine, so the complete body energy has drawn out, completely fade away, and I am becoming for really weak. And I recognize now previous vigor I had has completely fairly reduced. Now I can have to walk very carefully, I mean very slowly, and cannot meet the schedule, cannot meet my expectations, and things are very much out of control. And again, when we are traveling by train, it took a long time, and the train was delayed by 2.5 hours, so I have to wait. And again, the thoughts may arise, so what's going to happen, how things going to be all right, whether things going to be all right. And when we approach Calcutta, actually the situation is again a problematic, because the person or the monk who actually organized the retreat, he unfortunately had to leave that place because he has to participate funeral held in Sri Lanka. So things are in a little messy way. So we have to find out the resources, and we have to arrange things by ourselves. The typical atmosphere is not available, so we have to prepare the atmosphere so that it is suitable for a retreat. And the participants are completely new, and they can't speak really well, and coordinators are coming only at the last moment. And then communication problems are sometimes available, and somehow the message has to be communicated with very well, so kind of a challenging situation. And the environment is again quite noisy. So it was in the Deepavali time, and the setup was very very noisy. They are uh, making use of loudspeakers, and the environment is pretty noisy. So that also has to be endured, and we have no control. We can't go out and ask the people to reduce their sound, since we are going through a retreat. And on the other hand, those loudspeakers lasted till around 12 a.m. So we have to wait 12 midnight. Actually, we have to wait without sleep till things are calming down. I'm typically a person who requires some amount of calmness for me to go to sleep. But unfortunately, when the surrounding is pretty noisy, so can't sleep at all. So there are a lot of say anxiety arising. So a lot of expectations are, mind is trying to meet. So things are not beyond our control. So likewise, when things are happening in favorable way, how can we cope up with it? Are we going to complain? Are we going to accuse someone? Are we getting angry? Or are we able to patiently endure? Actually, one of the very interesting statement made by Venerable Achan Cha, he mentioned that among all the qualities we develop in our lives, patient endurance is the most important. So nowadays we can recall or remind that advice again and again. So we may be developing various qualities, maybe mindfulness, maybe concentration. We may be trying to develop wisdom, many qualities maybe. But we can't do it at all if we don't have enough patience, because sometimes those qualities may not immediately happen within ourselves. They don't immediately grow. You need a lot of time, you need to carefully do it, you have to spend a lot of time, you have to dedicate yourself. And again, if you do a mistake, again everything comes really down. You may have to start from the beginning. So patience therefore become kind of a must. On the other hand, when we go through some hardship, how to cope up with it. So that is what actually we are trying to explain today. So if we already have some amount of mindfulness, so rather than aggravating the situation, rather than accusing someone, rather than doing too much complaints, So probably we can apply break. So this break is nothing but mindfulness. So when streams of thoughts are arising, when mind is talking different way, giving various opinions, asking you to go and intervene, then how are we going to apply breaks? So the mindfulness, if we have already developed, at least to some extent, will tell you, okay, don't worry, just calm down, just have a breath, ground yourself. So that kind of an advice may come from your heart or from your mindfulness practice. So in that sense, actually, mindfulness is like a companion that we are always accompanying. It's very much like a self-monitoring process. Say wherever you go, so you are now going along with this self-monitoring process. So the mindfulness will come forward and tell you, okay, you are doing good, okay, you are doing bad. So certain things are not favorable, so you have to careful. And when things are not favorable, probably there could be various defilements possible to arise, so you have to be careful. So likewise, when the situation is not favorable, and when the situation is depending on so many other factors, so we have to have this kind of patience. And not only that, we have to patiently endure hunger and thirst. Say say as a monk, particularly when you are traveling, sometimes if you don't accompany another devotee, another helping person, then you are completely depending on the mercy of others, depending on the generosity of others. And if you miss the lunchtime, then again you have to wait another 18-20 hours till the next day morning. So at that time, probably we have to endure patience and maintain some amount of patience. So I myself have to go through it. Actually, when we reach the airport, it's around 11:15, and we have to cross to another terminal, and it took around half an hour. Only just 15 minutes is available to have the lunch. Just something is better rather than looking for a best thing. So I have to somehow manage myself. So it is not only for me, so sometimes for yourself. Say if you are traveling long distance, probably you can't meet all the requirements, all your appetite you can't meet. So somehow you have to support yourself. So at those occasions, so being patient and looking at the situation in a different way, finding a reason to be glad is something that we can think of. Say even though you have less time, probably assume, say you didn't miss the train or you didn't miss the plane. So likewise you can think positively. And on the other hand, Buddha mentioned patiently endures contact with flies, mosquitoes, wind, the burning sun, and serpents. Now here, the nature is always not favorable to us. Nature is not always kind to us. Sometimes it may be, but sometimes not. So if the environment is not favorable, then how can we still maintain calmness within ourselves? Say you are in a retreat environment, say the environment is little noisy. Or mosquitoes are available. If you go out, mosquitoes are available. Now I am conducting this while in Kalalgoda, and there are also some participants available. And they know that in the outside, the meditation hall, there are a lot of mosquitoes. So how can we patiently endure that? We can't expect a completely mosquito free environment. So, are we able to endure it? And sometimes, if you are going through some forest environment, so there is a threat from serpents and wild animals. So, are we really afraid? So, assume that you are living in a kuti, you are living in a remote area. So, if too much of thinking happens, then the fear arises in the mind. So again and again, mind aggravates the situation. So this mental proliferations, imaginations, all come to the picture, and ultimately, mind itself may aggravate the situation. Maybe the environment is all right, but you can create a lot of fear based upon your thinking. So thinking is, in the other hand, is really uh, worsening the situation. So if you recognize this, so this mind is going to play havoc. So mind is going to aggravate the situation. How can I avoid that at least? Now the things are already something wrong or things are not favorable. So why should I add another part from myself? Suppose the outside conditions are not favorable. So on top of that, how are you going to avoid inside unfavorable situation as well? Now that kind of a possibility is only available for a mindfulness practitioner or for a person who is particularly has gone to some extent of vipassana, because he know how to handle the thinking. Otherwise, the mind completely drive us and completely think various ways, lot of imaginations, and always sometimes lean towards the worst part. What I want to mention is, now there may be some good possibilities, favorable positive possibilities, but mind may always complain about the unfavorable possibilities. What going to happen if this is not available? What going to happen if the situation is further bad? So likewise, mind may further aggravate the situation by contributing more negatively. So we are fond of worrying in a way. So mind is very much knowingly or unknowingly trained to be worried. But if we recognize this kind of a tendency available in our mind, so rather than being victimized to that tendency, probably we can avoid that. So when such thoughts are arising in the mind, so we better apply break. We better be mindful rather than allowing mind to overwhelm ourselves. That negative thinking, that worrying, rumination, imagination, rather than allowing those things to overwhelm ourselves, how are we going to have a little calm environment within ourselves? While the outside is burning, how can we maintain without burning? As we discussed even yesterday in Kalalgoda. So the term Nibbana is basically means a coolness, calmness, tranquility, say serenity. So we can't expect from every time that the outside is calm, serene, cool. Outside may be burning, people are shouting, people may be quarreling. But without adding our own quarrel, without adding our own agony, without adding our own kind of, say, inner burning to the picture, how can we become somewhat calm? So that is the way, in a way, we have to handle things. Now, further Buddha mentioned, patiently endures rude and offensive ways of speech. So that is very really important, because we sometimes expect some kind of kindness from others, and we hope that they may treat us really well. They may talk to us with some gentle words. They may give their due respect to us, and probably they may give a chance for me to talk, to give my opinion. So likewise, we have some kind of expectation going on within ourselves. But how it is not going to happen? Now, suppose that you are in a meeting and all others are talking and putting their own views without giving you a chance to put your view, or for you to give your opinion. You are being suppressed, right? Suppose in a home environment, suppose there is a kind of a, say, discussion going on, and it can even turn into a little heated discussion. And how about the other parties continuously talking, without giving a single chance for another person to talk? So how that particular person, that other person, how can he understand the situation without getting angry, without being somewhat depressed? Can he endure that situation? And sometimes people purposely insult. So rather than praise or talk in a more respectful manner, they sometimes insult directly. So suppose that the meeting is over, the discussion is over. So whatever things that they discussed or what has happened, why are we carrying everything back to our home? Suppose the discussion or meeting has happened at our office. So after going back home or while traveling, maybe by train, by your own vehicle, so why are we thinking about what has happened? Probably the insult might have happened only once. a particular person disrespectfully they mentioned something, so you got really hurt while traveling. So how many times I am again and again recalling that? While at home, how many times I am recalling it again and again? So that particular person has done that only once, but we ourselves, by thinking it again and again, we are in a way piercing ourselves. We are in a way hurting ourselves 1001 times. So that further aggravates the situation. Our mind may even add to that picture, and even things that he didn't mention, we can add to the picture. That even aggravate the situation. When we may still start crying, we start worrying, we may start complaining, we may start writing a letter or lodging a complaint. So like that, so many things are possible because we don't know how to let go of things. So letting go is something that we are learning through the mindfulness practice. Say for example, while you are walking, so there are others also walking. There may be various distractions, and because you have to keep your eyes open, you can see others are also walking, and maybe certain other disturbances are also available. Among all these disturbances, distractions, so we are kind of a training our mind to keep our attention only to the selected area, only to the selected object. So this is the training that we are doing. So if we are successful in that training, so when thoughts are popping up, when various distractive thoughts are happening in the mind, rather than continuing in that streams of thoughts, so again and again we can come back to our sensation. Again and again we can come back to our feeling of the foot. So this is a kind of a training that we are doing. So this training is not only useful in the walking meditation, whatever the skill that we have developed. Now it is the time to apply it, get the benefit of that while we were engaged in an argument. We already have engaged in an argument, or we went through a difficult situation. Someone has accused you, someone has insulted you. On such situation, without allowing those thoughts to again and again coming in the mind and you adding things to it, aggravating the situation, getting into a kind of obsessive way of thinking, how about let go of that thought and you recognize that these thoughts are happening, incident has happened, it is the past. How can I open up myself in a fresh manner to the new moment? Because the past has gone now, it has happened now, it is a past moment. What is available in front of you is a new moment. So how about embracing the new moment with a new mind or a fresh mind, not with a worried mind? So this is in a way, so if we have properly trained ourselves, so whenever those past thoughts are appearing in the mind, happening in the mind, rather than promoting that, rather than adding to that, rather than getting victimized to that, so we can simply apply our training here. We simply let go of those thoughts. He may be wrong, I may be correct, but still, rather than hurting ourselves, we simply have to let go of those thoughts. Actually, while in the meditation environment, I mean, letting go may be easier because this kind of a disturbing incident might not have happened. You may be coming with the, say, a mindset of meditation. So when thoughts are appearing, so probably you are not promoting them and you may be ignoring it. But when you really has faced this kind of a lifetime situation where someone has really insulted you, and when thoughts are coming again and again about that incident, how about letting go of that thoughts? This is something that actually we need to think of. And on the other hand, how about applying a little bit of forgiving? Probably the other person didn't understand the situation, or probably he misunderstood the situation. So he had a wrong judgment about you. How about forgiving? And how about forgetting? So why are we again and again reminding it? Say sometimes people are recalling what has happened several years ago. Again and again worrying sometimes. Again and again get angry. How dare he did that? So likewise they think. Hurting yourself. The incident has happened maybe several months ago, a year ago, but still Whenever you remind it, you are in a way taking it to the surface of the mind. Why are you in a way wounding your mind? Now, in a way, sometimes actually we can look at in a different angle. So, for why are you punishing yourself for someone else's fault? Someone else has done the fault. He is the one who insulted. So that is his fault. But for that, I am punishing myself. You are punishing yourself. So if we are looking in that angle, rather than promoting anger, rather than again and again reminding what has happened, we can simply let go of that and calm down. And another important thing is, so in Vipassana, we are learning how to let go of I making and mind making. Say, whenever thoughts are happening, promoting a self view. So, I am the boss, I am the, say, perfect person, I am the competent person, or promoting as a kind of a character. So this kind of a self-promoting thoughts are happening time to time because we all have some kind of a conceit. So because of this conceit, so this I making, mind making is continuously happening. But with time, with meditation or with vipassana, so we have to recognize this I making and mind making. As we recognize it, we can simply, rather than promoting it, we can slowly abandon it. Now, when there is a huge ego available in ourselves, it's very difficult to do it. Now, suppose some sort of a incident has happened, someone has insulted you, and if you are maintaining a huge ego, it's very, very difficult to let go of that incident because you are expecting kind of a respect, you are expecting kind of a position. So that position, that respect was not given, and your ego being hurt, then it's very difficult to let go of that. But before such kind of an incident happen, if you are training yourself to understand this I making, mind making happening within your mind, so then that training actually may help even when you really face such kind of a difficult situation. When someone has insulted, they probably he may be trying to touching your so these ego making points. Sometimes Buddha refer them as a kind of a upadi, acquisitions. So we all are making a self based on various acquisitions. Someone is touching or addressing those points. So they are in a way challenging those points. So when it is happening, when the ego is trying to safeguard itself, so rather than allowing it, how about recognizing that self view being arising in our mind so that we are able to slowly remove it or abandon it? So these are, in a way, subtle things that we can learn by our own lifetime experiences. So why are we harboring, say, some hurtful thoughts again and again? Actually, has a significant contribution coming from our self view. If we are maintaining a huge ego, then it is very difficult to let go. But if you are a person who is forgiving, fairly, say, soft, say, mild, and you know what's really going on in the mind, and you have seen how mind is trying to play tricks and sort of promoting a self view. So if you have done this part before the incident happened, so when you really face that kind of a difficult situation, an incident, probably you can make use of your training. And further, Buddha mentioned, bear up with recent bodily feelings that are painful, racking, sharp, piercing, harrowing, disagreeable, sapping one's vitality. So we always have to face sometimes uh, kind of diseases, illnesses, pains, aches. These are inevitable. So this is the human body. It's always subjected to difficult situations, diseases. So one important thing is when the body is suffering, when the body is going through some painful feeling, why are we adding mental pain on top of that? So that is the part Buddha is asking us to remove or abandon. So we can't stop body getting sort of sick. So when the body is sick, can't we simply limit it to that bodily sickness? without adding a mental component. That is what Buddha emphasized in the Salla Sutta. So bodily sickness, bodily pains, diseases are like a kind of a struck coming from a spear. So why are we adding a second struck from another mental spear? So that is the mental part Buddha is addressing. So Buddha is telling, okay, don't add that part. Allow the body to heal by various medicines and whatever the things, but don't add the mental pain on top of that. So while we are going through a disease, while we are going through a sickness, so if we can limit ourselves only to that, only to the physical part, to the bodily part, while trying to maintain the mind relaxed, then that is a kind of a blessing. Probably you can't immediately do that when you are sick, but before you become sick, so if you are training your mind, if you are doing some amount of practice, probably you can remember these teachings while you are sick. When the bodily sickness is going on, how about having a unentangled mind, a relaxed mind, untroubled mind, a mind free from worrying? And ups and downs of life are always possible, and therefore it's a kind of a, bad or kind of a bitter truth that we always have to understand. So life is not always favorable. Life is not always in a way going up and up, always positive. Or the negative side is always available. So this would be mentioned as the vicissitudes of the life, so ups and downs of the life. So either we sometimes go through gains, fame, praise. So those are the positive part. On the other hand, we sometimes have to go through losses. We may have to go through certain ill fame and the blames. Those are also possible. So while we are going through the negative part, how are we going to patiently endure? So that is where, in a way, the practice really helps. So probably you can remember the last verse of Mangala Sutta. Uttassa loka dhammehi chittang yassana kampati. So whenever you are struck with various difficult situations of the life, Uttassa loka dhammehi chittang yassana kampati. Your mind is unwavering, unshakable mind. So this is a kind of a challenging situation. So meditation is one thing, but the life situations, various ups and downs of our lives are inevitable. So even them happen to the Buddha. Even the Arahants have gone through all these troubles, but they were able to maintain their integrity of the mind. They were able to maintain the calmness, serenity of the mind, even when the situation is sort of unfavorable. And in a way, before we get into the face with the situation, face with the trouble, so if we are having kind of a refuge, we recognize kind of a refuge. We are to maintain the mind. We are to find a refuge. So that is a blessing. So that is why in the Satipatthana practice, again and again we need to emphasize recognizing that kind of a refuge. So our practice is aimed to find out that refuge. So we need to understand all these conditioned phenomena are not something that we can depend upon. They are so vulnerable. So they are so uncertain, completely impermanent. So finding out refuge from them or finding out refuge among them is no use. So the Buddha's teaching help us to find something different. So that is where Buddha recognized, okay, non-grasping state of mind as a refuge, unassociated state of the mind as a refuge. So the mind is recognizing kind of a temporary freedom of the mind. So this freedom of the mind, at least even it may be temporary, we have to appreciate, we need to recognize as something that we need to develop, as something that we have to promote, recognize, dwell upon. And if it is available, if we are able to familiarize with it, then when we are going through some difficult situations, then we can recognize our previous refuge, what we were training, and keep our mind there, try to keep our mind there. rather than always expecting the positive part. Suppose you are going through a loss, rather than expecting always a gain. Suppose that you are going through someone's blames, rather than expecting always praise. Say, suppose that you are going through some ill fame, rather than expecting always the fame. So, what is the alternative we have? So, the alternative is this unattached mind, non grasping state of mind, maybe the freedom of the mind. So, that is something that we need to look forward, we need to train ourselves, and that is something Buddha mentioned that we need to protect even. If you are able to recognize it, Buddha mentioned, okay, just try to protect it, just try to be with it, try to consolidate that. Then we have another alternative solution in our life. When the situations are bad, situations are unfavorable, we know where to keep the mind. So with that, I like to conclude today's what this resilience and coping skills. So whenever we are training ourselves really well, so the resilience is built up, so you can quickly recover as you go through hardships, as you go through unfavorable situations, as you go through calamities. Still you can quickly recover, you can come back to your normal state, you can maintain a undisturbed mind very quickly. You may have gone through little trouble, little jerk, fine, no problem, but you can quickly recover because you have trained yourself. So these are the benefits actually we are getting from the mindfulness practice as well as particularly from Vipassana. So while keeping or adding that note, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon or this presentation. Now we can start a short guided sitting. May you sit in a comfortable position, and you can gently close your eyes. So there are various sounds available, sounds of vehicles and sometimes sounds of birds, little noise. So we are simply accepting it. We recognize they are merely sounds. We have no control over them. They are coming and going. Simply accepting. So maintaining a relaxed attitude. Now we can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and slowly release. Come back to the body. Use your body as an anchoring point for the mind. Whenever mind wanders, recognize it and come back to the body. So, this body awareness becomes kind of an anchor to the wandering mind. We are in a very comfortable sitting posture. Again, we can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and slowly release. Our eyes are gently closed, lips are gently touching, and there is no tension in the face. So relax yourself, calm down, and we are trying to enjoy the present moment, accept the present moment, live in the present moment. So whenever worrying thoughts are coming, don't encourage that. Slowly let them go. And when various imaginations, plans are happening in your mind, don't encourage that either. Simply keep them aside and come back to the present ordinary experience. Head straight, neck straight, shoulders in a relaxed position, and your arms may be resting on your lap, and there can't be any tension in your arms. If there is any tightness, tension available, just relax yourself. Arms has to be quite relaxed. Probably you can recognize how clothes are touching the body. Here and there, a little bit of tightness, maybe a little rubbing sensation, maybe a little discomfort. So recognize those areas where the clothes are touching. As we move further down, probably you can recognize heart vibration, you can recognize how abdominal movement happen, rising and falling. By spending few minutes recognizing all these movements. As we further move down, we can recognize how pressure being built up in our buttocks. Thigh muscles are relaxed, calf muscles are relaxed, and maybe the foot is touching the ground. If there are any wandering thoughts, don't encourage them. Gently let them go and come back to your body. Now we are keeping our attention at the nostril and we are trying to be aware of in breath and out breath. And if there are distractions, probably you can make use of noting. You're simply noting when in breath happens in, when out breath happens out. Do it in a more gentle way, kind of a mental confirmation about the physical activity. Allow the body to breathe naturally. Relax yourself. Just have a distant observation. And once the mindfulness has established, you can continue your normal meditation. If you're practicing Anapanasati, you can continue it. If you're practicing, say, Dhatu Manasikara, element meditation, you can switch to it. If you're practicing Vedananupasana, Chittanupasana, you can switch to it and continue. Okay, I think we can wind up the session.
Yes, thank you so much for the valuable Dhamma talk on this, really good topic. So see you in couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay, Teruvan Sannai.
Terasa Navante.